When life gets unpredictable, preparation matters. In medicine, it's all about staying alert, ready for whatever comes through the door. On the road, it's no different. That's why Volvo designs vehicles to help anticipate risk, reduce harm, and protect lives. The Volvo XC90's advanced safety systems inspire confident decisions wherever the road takes you. The Volvo XC90, for life. Proud sponsor of the Pit Podcast. Learn more at volvocars.ca/safety.
Welcome back to the Elias Makos Show, third hour of the program. We're going to begin this third hour. I'm so happy we've invited Étienne Fortin-Gauthier onto the program. He's a politics and society journalist over at Noovo. I would say across the street, but then we had a flood and you're no longer across the street. Over in Nuns Island, you're working hard and all over the place.
It's a pleasure to be back.
Yeah, and Étienne, we have so much in common. Yeah. I think we have a interesting perspective on the world. But you for your job, you traveled to the States, right?
It's
the
true.
Last time you were on, you were talking about how going into the Bible Belt in the Deep South,
It's true.
Right?
And I was even in Washington to cover Kamala Harris' headquarters, but it was not much happened that night.
That's right. It was a bit of a dud on election night. So you've been to the States recently to cover America. I was in the States for 3 weeks on that State Department trip that I did during the election campaign as well. So listen, the reason you're on this morning is because there are some voices in the province that are raising concerns over the emergence of this group called Nouvelle Alliance. Yeah. It's being called, right, and we're going to get into who is calling it this. It's being called a far-right nationalist group in Quebec. They're advocating for a combative separatism and traditional Catholic values. The group recently celebrated the 1837 Patriote Revolt in Saint-Denis-sur-Richelieu. They highlight their anti-immigration stance and efforts to preserve Quebec's cultural identity. I want to start off with this, right? The term far right. Yeah. I think every time we use it, we should be explaining why we feel it can be used in this moment. So let's talk about that.
Yeah. So in this case, it's experts who are saying that, but not only experts, also politicians, and I'll come to that later. But for in the experts, we have David Morin. He's the director of the UNESCO Chair of Violent Radicalization and Extremism at the University of Sherbrooke, and he says that Nouvelle Alliance, this new group, they've been on for 2 years, but now very active. Putting stickers across Quebec on stop signs, for example. They put French stickers on stop signs, so they become arrêt signs.
Yes.
But this expert, David Morin from the University of Sherbrooke, they say this new group adopts symbols of far-right movements in Europe. For example, they march with torch. They wear some jackets. They have symbols that are used by far right in Europe in many movements. Also, they're topics of interest: immigration, to limit immigration, to come back to our roots. In Quebec, it's our Catholic roots. To say that the Quebec sovereignist movement should focus on these roots and an era of Quebec where it was more. The same identity. People had the same identity. So they promote these ideas. And when we have all that, it means we are on the far right.
And that's the thing, because there are lines, right? We have to admit, in everything in life, there is a line. Because I can point out, the Premier of Quebec at times has spoken about our shared Catholic heritage, like where Quebec came from. He said that. No one would call him far right. Well, I know maybe some people would call him far right too. Paul St. Pierre Plamondon has talked about immigration.
Oh, that's true.
Right? But again, it all comes down to the line.
Exactly.
Right?
And when it adds up, when you have symbols, when you have messages, when it all adds up, these experts say it could be considered far right. And one thing that is adding to that is that Louis-Philippe Sauvé, he's the new MP for the Bloc Québécois in La Salle et Mar-Verdun.
Oh, yes. He was on this show after he was elected.
Oh, yeah. And so I interviewed him on this group. He knows them very well because last year there was a sovereignist march with the Société Saint-Jean-Baptiste. And he was working with the Société Saint-Jean-Baptiste, and he didn't want Nouvelle Alliance to be part of the march. And that day, it's important to mention it, some neo-Nazi were also joining Nouvelle Alliance on that day. And Louis-Philippe Sauvé intervened, and they say, you cannot march with us, you're not welcome here. And the Nouvelle Alliance wanted to walk anyway, and they did it without his approbation.
Well, and the recent MP for the Bloc is a younger guy, right?
Louis-Philippe Sauvé, yeah, exactly. And he says that this is also a right-wing movement and a far right-wing movement. So he's an MP, he's with the Bloc Québécois, but he agrees with that definition.
Now, I have to ask this, right? This Nouvelle Alliance, have there been any threats on their part of violence, of that kind, that, because that to me is also a thing that is the most worrisome thing I see from some far right movements in Europe. Let's say is when they're willing to use violence.
It's true, but this time no. Nouvelle Alliance, when we talk to them, they say we'll not go there. We want to do a physical and a combative separatism, but they say that it's not they're not into violence. So for them, it's more into action, grassroots actions, protesting, and this is their definition of a national resistance. These are terms they use, and they say that, and of course they say they're not far right. They say
what do they call themselves? Yeah, that's a good point.
They say we're not on the right, neither on the left. They say we're not pro. We defend the church, Catholic Church. But we were not. We're also for secularism. So it's very hard. It's hard to define. When we listen to them, they don't want to be defined in any ways, and they say that they're very peaceful and they don't want to do violence. So.
Do they find a home anywhere politically inside political parties in Quebec? Are they finding a home
at the Bloc Québécois? Ironically, because we have Louis-Philippe Sauvé accusing them of being on the right, but at the Bloc Québécois, some of the members of Nouvelle Alliance, at least one, is part of Drummond Bloc Québécois. He's part of the group. He's one of the employee of the party there.
Oh, okay.
So and actually, they a lot of people from Nouvelle Alliance, they go in Parti Québécois activities, in Bloc Québécois activities. They're there, and some experts say that that's the way they want to promote their ideas. Their more extreme ideas on immigration or on identity.
We're with Étienne Fortin-Gauthier. He's a political and society journalist over at Noovo. We're talking about this the emergence of this group, Nouvelle Alliance. So let me ask you, what are we talking when we say emergence? How many people are we talking about here?
Good question. So officially, there's 60 people in the group, but these are official members. But they have 3 antennas, one in Montreal, one in Sherbrooke, and another one in Quebec. And there are about 100 more people joining the group in different activities. So about 160, 200 people in the group and around. Mostly men in their 20s. So the 24 years old, that's the middle age of the group.
24 is the average age.
Yeah, average age. And so it's surprising. Very young people promoting Catholic values and promoting a past they didn't even live in, right?
Catholic values, but not religious.
Exactly. So for them, it's they honor the past. They honor some traditions.
It's so interesting when you try and parse all this out and you compare it to other movements and that kind of stuff. What do they say? You've spoken to them. This is the thing. You've spoken to them.
Yes.
So what do they say are their true goals?
It's hard to know. It's hard to know because when we were there at Saint-Denis on the Richelieu, so there was speeches. They honored the flag. They did speeches about the patriots, about sovereignty, and then they had a private activity where we were not welcome. So inside a private room in a church, in a Catholic church in Saint-Denis on the Richelieu, they did an assembly and they talked and they had speeches, but we were not welcome there. So there was the official part, the official activities outside, and there was what happened inside, and we don't know what they talked about. It was clear that we were not welcome. When we even tried to talk to people inside, they said, that's enough, you have to go.
Do you think politically in Quebec, when you met the PQ or the Bloc Québécois, there's Like they'll take the support, but they don't want to encourage it. You know, like how are they trying to deal with this type of movement?
It's a hot potato. Yeah. So it's a hot potato. When we mention Nouvelle Alliance to sovereignists in official parties, they feel very bad, uncomfortable. It's obvious. So I interviewed Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon on this, actually. And he said to me that for us, what is important, people can come from the right or the left, but they have to respect our code of ethic. And if people don't have hate speech, we will accept them in our movement. But Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon, the chef of the Parti Québécois, he said, I don't have an FBI or a CIA working for me.
Yeah.
And so I don't know who are the people in the party, are the members. I cannot verify everyone. So I cannot know if some of them are extremists. But if they say publicly hate speech, they will exit the party right away.
I tell all of our listeners here, obviously they can go to Noovo, see your reporting on this, and also for some of our listeners in the English side, if they'd prefer, we also on the CTV Montreal website, our good colleague Stéphane Giroux has piggybacked off of a lot of your work here in order to present this story to the English community as well. And I'm just looking at some of the imagery, right? And I'm looking at, obviously getting rid of the stop signs, right? So there's the language part of this as well. But I also saw like an effigy of people being hung. Is that what?
That was 200 patriots.
It
was 200 patriots. They hung.
Because some patriots were hung.
Exactly.
Okay, gotcha.
So,
jeez.
The imagery, that's what shock a lot of people. So the march with torches, as I told you. So that's something that sticks out in our society these days. And they don't have they say for them it's important to use that imagery, but it's not clear why exactly.
Étienne, we have to leave it there. Again, I'll encourage everyone to go to Noovo and CTV Montreal if they want to see and read a little bit more. Thanks so much.
Perfect. Thank you.
Étienne Fortin-Gauthier is a political and society journalist at Noovo.